talking to Brandon Huber, who's a research scientist at South Carolina State University. But today, I'm visiting you at your farm in St. Matthews, South Carolina.
Yeah, that's right. So I'm research scientist at SC State University. I work on vegetable crops, and yeah, we're right here with my giant pumpkins and watermelons in this patch out here in the yard.
You have a competitive aspect to your personality, but y'all are great friends, all the people who come to the competitions. But this is quite a gigantic pumpkin.
Right. So this one's estimating 505 pounds as of the other day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mercy. That's a lot of pumpkin pies.
Yeah.
But you also do watermelons, so let's talk about those first.
That's right. Yeah. The watermelons start as early as March. I graft them, and I graft them on a gourd rootstock. And the genetics are really interesting on these giants in general. They're almost a proven pedigree from over 30 to 50 years of improved breeding for giants. They originally stem from Carolina Cross watermelons.
That's kind of fun.
They're generations and generations of 300-pound watermelons, are some of the biggest ever grown for that time. And we've selected them and crossed them back, and only your top performers get replanted again the next year. So we've really pushed the bar, and they've gotten just gigantic.
So these watermelons kind of look like they're at the beach because they're under a canopy and they're not sitting on the hot sand.
That's right.
What's that all for?
Yeah, so we keep them off the ground. What we find is the watermelon, a large watermelon just collects dew and moisture underneath it, and the watermelons get a rot spot on them if they sit too long. And so, and it's very unfortunate if you grow a 100-pound watermelon and you just leave it on the ground and you think you got this great watermelon and you roll it over and you have a rot spot on it, and it's disqualified from the competition. Yeah. So we've learned to grow them up on these hammocks, and so it's basically like a hammock you would sit on. We make them ourselves out of like minnow nets and soccer nets and stuff, and it allows us to keep the melon suspended a foot off the ground. Allows us, you can check underneath it and lets air flow, and it's really great, and it's just a game changer.
And then you got them shaded as well.
That's right. So so with these melons get so large, they outgrow their leaf canopy. And we think about a commercial watermelon, they are shaded by their leaves. Okay. So we don't have that shade with the leaves because of how big they are. So we need to keep the fruit cool, because as soon as the fruit gets warm and gets exposed to the sun, it tends to signal the melon to start ripening. And we don't want them to ripen too early. We want them to grow long.
But you've got the leaves out in the sun, and boy, there's a big spread of those leaves.
Yeah, so each plant is 200 to 300 square foot for a watermelon plant.
Wow.
Which, to compare that to commercial watermelons, it's only about 24 square foot. So more than about 10 times the space. But we're only growing one large fruit, and so the more leaves, the better to support that fruit.
And you go through and, I believe, remove any little watermelons that say, I'm here, I'd like to be a watermelon.
That's right. It says ongoing, checking the patch to make sure to remove those smaller fruit, maintain only one fruit per plant, because we want to really encourage all that energy to go in that one fruit.
And then you've also got some little tables out there. What is that, where you play cards or what?
Maybe the melons play cards at night, but no, those are to cover the rootstock. And the rootstock is just this big stump growing out of the ground, and they get a lot of rots and stuff. So it's easier. We found that it's easier to just keep them covered.
Okay.
Out of the rain and the sun too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And do you fertilize them and add extra irrigation if they need them? How does it go?
Absolutely. So each plant, being a 200 square foot plant, I irrigate them about as dry as it is right now. I'm irrigating each plant 50 gallons per plant. 50 gallons per plant. And that's, a lot of water to support that big plant and that big fruit. And fertilizer, a little bit at a time. I use a dosatron, and I have a little dose of fertilizer each day. And, it's kind of like a marathon. You just keep going a little at a time. You don't want to overdo. I don't go, if you buy a box of Miracle Grow and you read the ingredients, I'm fertilizing at a fraction of that, but every day.
Because if it got too much, it might crack or split.
Right. Yeah, they split. They're very volatile, especially the pumpkins. But they, you really, slow and steady, with all of them, or otherwise sometimes the vines burst, the fruit can burst, the stump can blow up. I had one the other day where the plant actually just, the rootstock blew up, and blew up to the point where it cut itself off of its own circulation. And that's those melons I took to the competition the other day.
Wow.
They were early fruit because the plant quit.
Yeah.
And so it's very volatile.
And then with the pumpkins, we've got a whole different scenario going on, but similar in some ways. You've got them on a mat kind of that keeps them off the ground.
Right. Yep. So that's a mill fabric mat, kind of like a conveyor belt, synthetic material. It breathes. It allows air. It allows, it keeps the fruit dry and clean, and it also allows you to slide the fruit as you need it. Because as this thing gets really big, it'll push pressure on its own vine, and I'll actually have to adjust it a couple times, even as big as it is, to keep. It'll actually break itself off its own vine if you're not careful.
And then you've got electricity out here, and you've got fans going and a camera. And I mean, this is a lot to have a pumpkin.
So the camera tells me helps me keep a second eye on it when I'm out and about, and on just mainly for splits so that I can be proactive. And the fans that keep the airflow. It's tough growing a pumpkin in South Carolina, and what we find is if you're growing a big one, to keep airflow on its stem, the peduncle, the stem that connects to the fruit, keep that dry and airflow on it, keeps us out of trouble. And it's amazing with airflow that if I remove that fan for a day or two, or I lose power, they'll start getting spots and stuff that quick. So it's just an insurance policy, and it works really well. It seems crazy, but it's really helped me get this far.
So this is here sitting in this protected spot and being babied along, but you've got to get it on some kind of truck or something and get it to the different state fairs. I think you're going to take them to the South Carolina State Fair.
That's right. Yeah. So we have this pumpkin lift ring, a really interesting device. It's a metal ring, and we run heavy duty lifting straps down around the circumference of that ring. And at the bottom, because the pumpkin is kind of, it's wider in the middle, and it kind of goes down at the bottom, it allows us to kind of like tie it real tight at the bottom and pick it up in a sling-like fashion. But that's the scary part, getting it lifted, secured, make sure the bottom's not rotted, because we can't take it to the competition if it has a rot on it. And
you keep them shaded on the way to the competition?
Yeah, usually keep some tarps on it just to keep, some road debris from getting into it and whatnot. I'll actually... I will saran wrap it. I'll run a yep, just to keep it protected and keep the moisture in it. These things lose weight the minute they're cut off the vine.
Whoa.
So they'll lose something like 20 pounds a day.
And if it had all that
wind, transpiration, so we want to keep that covered, and so we wrap it in plastic, tarps, plastic, and so on. Yeah, but then we got to strap it down to the truck. So we load it into the truck, and we have pool noodles to protect it so that those ratchet straps go over to secure it, and the pool noodles protect it from getting bruised.
Because you can't have it rolling around in the truck.
That's right, yeah. So you're securing the pallet, and then you're securing the pumpkin to the pallet, and then the pallet to the truck bed. And if it's too heavy, you might have to pull it in a flatbed trailer behind the truck. This one will fortunately be able to fit in the back of a pickup truck, but if it was over 1,000 pounds, I might need to pull it behind.
And then the watermelons are not nearly so much trouble most years.
Right. The weather's been all over the place this year, and so my fruit on the watermelons are a little smaller this year. They're still big, but they're not where I hoped they'd be for this year.
But they're easy to transport relatively, because they're not nearly so heavy.
Yeah, we have these just heavy duty lifting tarps, and we kind of roll it under there and pick it up, and everyone grabs a corner, and if it's a 250-pound watermelon, 4 people can manage it quite easily. Yeah.
Okay. Well, so you have this huge network of friends, even though right now you're down in St. Matthews, South Carolina, and with wonderful cohorts at South Carolina State University.
Right.
But you've got a nationwide, and I think even international group of people.
Yeah. It's a really cool group, and we're all in different areas, so we all do this kind of like independently on our own, but we're all, we might be, there's not really a cluster area of growers. Now there's a bunch in North Carolina, but they're all about an hour or so from each other, and it's a very tight, we talk, text, call very frequently, and we talk about the grow, and we share tips, and I've learned a lot of this from some of these guys that are seasoned, that have done this for 20, 30 years, so it's a great community. People tend to not hold information from each other because everyone's environment's different. Your yard, my yard here compared to North Carolina, our soils may be different, especially if you're in the mountain part versus the coast. And anyway, you can tell someone all the information in the world, but you still got to replicate it in your environment, and everyone's situation is different.
Well, it sounds like you're doing pretty good, and we wish you all the luck in the world. Thanks for letting us come out.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.